Dr. Kim Minji rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the clock on her computer screen. It was 3 in the morning and she had been sitting in the same chair for 12 hours straight. The deep space monitoring facility was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the occasional beep from the computers that never stopped listening to the stars. Minji was a xenolinguist, which meant she studied alien languages. Most people thought her job was boring because aliens did not exist, or at least that was what everyone believed. But Minji knew better. For the past 3 weeks she had been tracking something strange in space, a signal that was different from all the others. The signal was not meant for Earth. It was like listening to a phone call between two people who did not know you were there. Minji had tried everything she could think of to decode the message, working day and night with barely any sleep. Her coffee cup was empty again, and she had lost count of how many times she had refilled it. Tonight felt different though. The computer programs she had been running were finally making progress. Lines of strange symbols began changing into something that looked like real words. Minji leaned forward, her heart beating faster as the translation slowly appeared on her screen. The words that appeared made her blood turn cold. It was a military message from something called the Galactic Empire. They were talking about Earth like it was a piece of property they wanted to buy. The message mentioned humans as their next target for something they called acquisition. Minji read the translation 3 times to make sure she understood it correctly. The aliens described humans as primitive but surprisingly aggressive. They had plans for what they called standard pacification protocols, which sounded like a fancy way of saying they wanted to make humans give up without a fight. Her hands started shaking as she realized what this meant. Somewhere out there in space, a powerful alien empire was making plans to invade Earth. They thought humans were weak and stupid, and they had no idea that someone on Earth was listening to their secret messages. This was not supposed to happen. In all the science fiction movies, aliens either came in peace or they attacked without warning. Nobody ever talked about getting advance notice of an alien invasion. But here it was, right on her computer screen like a terrible gift that nobody wanted to receive. Minji printed out the translation and read it one more time on paper. The message was real. The Empire was real. And they were coming for Earth. She grabbed her phone and called General Park Do-hyun, who ran the military part of the space monitoring program. The phone rang 5 times before a sleepy voice answered. "This better be important, Minji. Do you know what time it is?" "General, you need to come to the facility right now. Bring Dr. Lee Jiwon with you. I have something you both need to see immediately." "Can it wait until morning?" "No, sir. If I am right about what I found, morning might be too late." Something in her voice must have convinced him because she could hear him getting out of bed. "We will be there in 30 minutes. Minji spent those 30 minutes double-checking her work, hoping she had made a mistake somewhere. But every time she ran the translation program she got the same terrifying results. The aliens were coming and they thought it would be easy. When General Park and Dr. Lee arrived at the facility, Minji showed them everything. She explained how she had found the signal, how she had decoded it, and what it meant. Both men listened in silence, their faces growing more serious with each word. "Are you absolutely certain about this translation?" Dr. Lee asked. He was the head scientist at the facility and had worked with alien signals for 20 years. "I have checked it 15 different ways. The message is clear. They are planning to invade Earth and they think we will not be able to fight back." General Park studied the printout. "How long do we have?" "The message does not give an exact date, but based on other parts of their conversation, I think we have less than a year." The 3 of them sat in silence for a moment, thinking about what this meant. Finally, General Park stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the facility. "We need to contact the world leaders immediately. This is too big for any one country to handle alone." "What do we tell them?" Dr. Lee asked. "The truth. We tell them that aliens exist, they are not friendly, and they are coming to Earth. We also tell them that we have something the aliens do not expect us to have." "What is that?" Minji asked. "Time to prepare." Within 3 days, secret meetings were happening in government buildings around the world. Presidents, prime ministers, and military leaders were being told something that would have sounded like science fiction just a week earlier. But the evidence was clear and the message was real. Project Prometheus was created to prepare Earth for the coming invasion. The name came from the old Greek story about the man who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humans. The aliens thought humans were primitive and weak, but they were about to learn that humans had one advantage the Empire did not expect. Humans had received a warning and they would not waste it. As normal life continued on Earth, with people going to work and school and worrying about ordinary problems, secret facilities around the world began working on extraordinary solutions. The aliens had made one crucial mistake when they sent that message through space. They had underestimated humanity's ability to listen. Captain Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the stars through the large window. 8 months had passed since the Empire had sent their scouts to study the small blue planet called Earth. Today he would begin the conquest that would add another world to their vast empire. The Imperial 47th Fleet had just come out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Vextar felt calm and confident as he watched his 12 ships move into formation. This would be another easy victory, just like all the others he had been part of during his long military career. He picked up the intelligence report about Earth and read it one more time. The humans had barely learned how to leave their planet. Their rockets were slow and used old chemical fuel. Their weapons were simple bombs and bullets. Most importantly, they had never fought a war in space before. Commander Zalwyn, begin the approach to Earth, Vextar ordered his second-in-command. Remember, we want to keep damage to the planet minimal. The Empire needs the resources intact. Yes, Captain. All ships are moving toward the third planet now. Vextar smiled as he thought about how quick this would be. Most species surrendered as soon as they saw the Empire's ships. The few that tried to fight usually gave up after losing 1 or 2 battles. Humans would probably be the same. The fleet moved slowly through the solar system, past the outer planets with their rings and moons. Everything looked exactly like the intelligence reports had described. There were no signs of advanced technology, no hidden weapons, no space stations ready for war. When they reached the area between Mars and Earth, Vextar expected to receive radio messages from the humans. Usually, the primitive species would beg for mercy or try to negotiate. Some would offer gold or other valuable things if the Empire would leave them alone. Instead, his communication officer looked confused. Captain, I am not receiving any transmissions from Earth. Nothing at all? No, sir. It is completely quiet. Vextar frowned. This was unusual but not impossible. Maybe the humans were too scared to speak, or maybe they did not understand what was happening. Continue the approach. They will contact us soon enough. But the humans did not contact them. As the Imperial fleet got closer to Earth, the silence continued. Vextar began to feel uncomfortable. Something was wrong, but he could not figure out what it was. Captain, called out the weapons officer, I am detecting some small objects moving toward us. Show me. The main screen displayed a tactical view of the area around their ships. Dozens of small dots were moving through space, heading directly for the Imperial fleet. They were too small to be ships and they were moving too fast to be asteroids. What are those things? Vextar asked. Before anyone could answer, the first wave of attacks began. The small objects suddenly became visible as they got closer, and Vextar realized they were some kind of drones. But these were not the crude machines he had expected from a primitive species. The drones moved with perfect coordination like they were being controlled by a single mind. They split up and attacked different ships at the same time. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as the drones struck the Imperial vessels. Shields up. Return fire. Vextar shouted. But the attacks were just beginning. From hidden positions throughout the solar system, other weapons opened fire on the Imperial fleet. Streams of metal projectiles moved faster than bullets, punching holes through the alien ships like they were made of paper. Vextar watched in shock as one of his destroyers exploded into pieces. The humans were using weapons that should not exist. According to all the intelligence reports, they did not have this kind of technology. Captain, we are receiving massive damage across the fleet, reported the damage control officer. 3 ships are already destroyed and 5 more are badly damaged. How is this possible? The intelligence reports said they were primitive. I do not know, sir, but their weapons are very advanced. They are using technologies that some of our own worlds do not possess. The battle continued for 2 hours, but it was not really a battle. It was a massacre. The humans had somehow prepared weapons and defenses that were far beyond what the Empire had expected. Their drones attacked in perfect formation, their railguns fired with deadly accuracy, and their defensive positions were hidden so well that the Imperial ships could not find them to fight back. Worst of all, the human weapons seemed to be designed specifically to fight Imperial ships. They knew exactly where to hit to cause the most damage, and they had ways to get past the Empire's shields and armor. By the time Vextar ordered his remaining ships to retreat, he had lost 6 vessels and over 3,000 soldiers. The flagship itself was badly damaged, with fires burning on multiple decks and half the weapon systems destroyed. As they limped away from Earth, moving as fast as their damaged engines could carry them, Vextar tried to understand what had happened. The humans had not just fought back, they had been ready for the attack. They had known the Imperial fleet was coming, and they had prepared to fight a war in space. But that was impossible. The Empire's communications were secure, and their plans were secret. There was no way the humans could have known about the invasion ahead of time. Unless someone had warned them. Vextar activated the emergency communication system and sent a message directly to Imperial Command. His voice was shaking as he spoke the words that no Imperial captain had ever had to say before. "This is Captain Vextar of the 47th Fleet. The invasion of Earth has failed. Repeat, the invasion has failed. The humans were ready for us. They have weapons we did not know about and they fought like they knew we were coming. Request immediate reinforcements and complete tactical review of intelligence reports." He paused, still trying to believe what had just happened. The humans are not primitive. They are dangerous. The world changed forever on a Tuesday morning when President Kang Saman appeared on every television screen, computer monitor, and phone in the world. People stopped what they were doing in offices, schools, restaurants, and homes to listen to words that would have sounded impossible just hours before. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice calm but serious. 8 months ago we received a message from space. It was not meant for us, but we heard it anyway. An alien empire was planning to invade Earth, and they believed we would be easy to defeat. Around the world, people stared at their screens in disbelief. Some thought it was a joke or a movie. Others felt their hearts begin to race as they realized the president was completely serious. "They were wrong," President Kang continued. "For 8 months, every nation on Earth has worked together in secret. We have built weapons, trained soldiers, and prepared for war. Yesterday the alien scouts attacked our solar system. Today I can tell you that we defeated them." She pressed a button and the screen filled with images that made people gasp. Huge spaceships floated near the moon, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and bristling with weapons. Space stations orbited Earth, their solar panels stretched wide like the wings of metal birds. Squadrons of fighter ships moved through space in perfect formation. "These are our ships," President Kang said. "We built them in hidden facilities on the moon and in deep space. We used technology that we found in old crash sites and combined it with our own inventions. We have been preparing for this war since the day we received their message." The images changed to show soldiers from every country training together. American pilots flew alongside Chinese engineers. Russian scientists worked next to Indian programmers. Japanese doctors treated wounded soldiers from Africa and South America. For the first time in human history, the entire world was truly united. "The aliens think we are primitive and weak," the president said. "They are about to learn how wrong they are." 3 weeks later, Admiral Raxnil arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system with the largest fleet the Galactic Empire had ever assembled. 150 warships emerged from hyperspace, enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. The Admiral was confident that whatever had happened to Captain Vextar's scouts was just a lucky accident. But as his fleet moved toward Earth, Raxnil began to understand that luck had nothing to do with it. The space around Earth was filled with human ships and defensive platforms. Radar screens showed hundreds of contacts where the intelligence reports had predicted empty space. "This cannot be correct," Raxnil said to his officers. "The humans barely had rockets 8 months ago. How do they have a space fleet?" His intelligence officer checked the readings 3 times before answering. "Sir, I count over 200 human vessels, and they appear to be moving into battle formation." Deep beneath the city of Seoul, General Park Do-hyun stood in a war room filled with screens and computers. Officers from dozens of countries worked side by side, coordinating the defense of their home planet. The general had spent his entire life studying warfare, and now he would use every lesson humans had ever learned about fighting. "The aliens have bigger ships and more advanced technology," he told his staff. "But they have one weakness that we can use against them. They have been winning easy battles for so long that they have forgotten how to fight a real war." The general's plan was simple. Instead of meeting the alien fleet head-on, the human ships would use hit-and-run tactics. They would attack from unexpected directions, use the asteroid belt and planets as cover, and never fight the kind of battle the aliens expected. The first major battle began near Jupiter, where the human fleet had been waiting in the shadows of the giant planet's moons. When the Imperial ships arrived, expecting to find empty space, they were met by a coordinated attack from multiple directions. Human fighters swarmed out from behind Jupiter's moons like angry wasps. They moved in patterns that confused the alien commanders, who were used to enemies that fought in neat formations. The human ships attacked in small groups, struck quickly, and disappeared before the aliens could respond effectively. Admiral Raxnil watched in frustration as his larger ships struggled to hit the fast human fighters. "Why are they not fighting properly?" he demanded. They should form battle lines and engage us directly. Sir, his tactical officer replied, I think they are fighting exactly as they planned. They are using guerrilla warfare tactics in space. The battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships darted in and out of the asteroid belt, using the rocks as shields and weapons. They coordinated their attacks using quantum communication systems that the aliens could not intercept or jam. Most importantly, they fought with a desperation and creativity that the Empire had never encountered before. The aliens had better shields, stronger armor, and more powerful weapons. But the humans had something more valuable. They had learned from thousands of years of fighting each other, and they knew how to win battles against superior enemies. When the first phase of the battle ended, Admiral Raxnil had lost 20 ships and thousands of soldiers. The humans had lost only 6 vessels, and their pilots had ejected safely from most of those. As he watched human rescue ships collecting their own people while ignoring the alien survivors, Raxnil began to understand what his empire was really facing. These were not primitives who would surrender at the first sign of superior force. These were warriors who had been preparing for war their entire lives. The humans had turned their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. Because they had always fought each other, they knew how to fight anyone. The war had been going on for 4 months when Captain Vextar woke up in a human prison cell. The room was small but clean, with a bed, a desk, and a window that showed the stars outside. He was aboard a human ship called the Soul Defender, and he was the highest-ranking Imperial officer that the humans had captured alive. Vextar had been thinking about the same question every day since his capture. How had the Empire made such a terrible mistake? They had conquered over 300 worlds in the past 1,000 years, and it had always been easy. Most species surrendered as soon as they saw the Imperial fleet. The few that fought back were defeated quickly and then agreed to join the Empire peacefully. But humans were different, and Vextar could not understand why. The door to his cell opened, and Dr. Li Jiwen entered with a tray of food. The human scientist had been visiting him every few days, sometimes to ask questions about Imperial technology, but mostly just to talk. Vextar found these conversations strange but interesting. Good morning, Captain, Dr. Li said, setting the tray on the desk. I brought you some Korean food today. I thought you might want to try something different. Vextar looked at the unfamiliar dishes. In the months since his capture, he had eaten foods from dozens of human cultures. The humans seemed to think that sharing food was important, though he did not understand why. Dr. Li, Vextar said, may I ask you a question? Of course. In all my years of service to the Empire, I have never seen anything like this war. Most species we encounter surrender when they realize they cannot win. They choose survival over fighting. But your people? He paused, trying to find the right words. Your species appears to be genetically incapable of surrender. Dr. Li sat down in the chair across from him. What do you mean? We have destroyed dozens of your ships and killed thousands of your soldiers. You have seen our technology and know that we have resources from hundreds of worlds. Any reasonable species would negotiate for peace by now. But instead of surrendering, your people fight harder. You think that makes us unreasonable? Vextar considered this carefully. Not unreasonable, but different. Very different. Dr. Li nodded slowly. Captain, can I tell you something about human history? Yes. For thousands of years, humans have been fighting each other. We have had wars between countries, between religions, between people who wanted different kinds of government. We have fought over land, over resources, over ideas. Some of these wars lasted for decades. That sounds wasteful. It was. But it taught us something important. We learned that sometimes, there are things more important than survival. Freedom is one of those things. Vextar frowned. I do not understand. What good is freedom if you are dead? What good is survival if you are not free to live your own life? Dr. Li asked. You see this war as a business transaction. You offer us protection and technology in exchange for joining your empire. To you it seems like a fair deal. It is a fair deal. Every species that joins the empire benefits from our knowledge and resources. But we never asked to join your empire. You decided to take our world without asking us what we wanted. To us, that is not a business deal. That is theft. Over the following weeks, as the war continued in space around them, Vextar began to understand what made humans so different from every other species the Empire had encountered. The humans did not see the Imperial invasion as a military defeat that they should accept. They saw it as an attack on their right to exist as free people. This difference in thinking affected everything about how the war was fought. Imperial commanders expected enemies to fight honorable battles with clear rules. But humans used whatever tactics worked, even if they seemed unfair or cruel. Human pilots would pretend to surrender, then attack when Imperial ships came to capture them. Human engineers turned broken Imperial ships into bombs that exploded when rescue crews tried to salvage them. Human hackers found ways to break into Imperial communication networks and send false orders to enemy ships. Most disturbing to the Imperial forces was how quickly humans learned to use captured alien technology. Within weeks of capturing an Imperial ship, human scientists would figure out how the alien weapons worked and build better versions. They took Imperial shield generators and made them stronger. They studied Imperial engines and built faster ships. "It is like fighting ghosts," one Imperial captain reported to Admiral Raxnil. "We destroy one human ship and 2 more appear with better weapons than before. They learn from every battle and they never make the same mistake twice." The Admiral had his own problems. His fleet had been fighting for 4 months, longer than any Imperial force had ever fought a single enemy. His ships needed repairs and his crews were exhausted. But every time he requested permission to withdraw and regroup, Imperial command ordered him to continue fighting. The Empire had never retreated from a conquest before, and they were not willing to start now. But Vextar could see what his leaders could not. As he watched human ships through his cell window, fighting with weapons that had not existed when the war started, he realized that the Empire was not fighting a primitive species that would eventually surrender. They were fighting humans who had learned that freedom was worth dying for. And humans had been practicing how to fight for freedom for their entire history. Admiral Raxnil stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the damage reports that covered his desk. 2 years of fighting had left his once mighty fleet broken and scattered. Ships that had conquered worlds were now held together with emergency repairs. Soldiers who had never known defeat were exhausted and demoralized. The war that was supposed to last weeks had become the Empire's longest conflict in over 1,000 years. And for the first time in his military career, Admiral Raxnil was about to do something no Imperial commander had ever done before. He was going to ask for peace. The meeting took place on a neutral space station that the humans had built specifically for negotiations. Admiral Raxnil arrived with his remaining officers, expecting to discuss the usual terms that ended Imperial conquests. The defeated species would agree to pay tribute, accept Imperial governors and gradually become part of the Empire. It had worked this way for centuries. General Park Do-hyun was waiting for them in the conference room. The human military leader looked tired but confident. Behind him sat other human representatives, including Dr. Kim Min-ji, the scientist who had first discovered the Imperial invasion plans. "Admiral," General Park said politely, "thank you for agreeing to meet with us." "General," Raxnil replied, settling into his chair. "The Empire is prepared to discuss reasonable terms for ending this conflict. We understand that your species has fought bravely, and we are willing to offer you better conditions than most worlds receive." The human representatives exchanged glances. Dr. Min-ji leaned forward and spoke quietly to General Park, who nodded. "Admiral, I think there may be some confusion here. We did not ask for this meeting to discuss our surrender. We asked for this meeting to discuss your withdrawal from our solar system." Raxnil felt his confidence waver. "I do not understand." General Park placed a document on the table between them. "These are humanity's terms for ending the war. First, all Imperial forces must withdraw completely from the Sol system and promise never to return. Second, the Empire must pay reparations to Earth for the damage caused during the invasion. Third, the Empire must officially recognize humanity as a free and independent spacefaring civilization with full rights to our territory." The Imperial officers stared at the document in shock. No conquered species had ever made demands of the Empire. The audacity of the human terms left them speechless. Admiral Raxnil found his voice first. "This is impossible. The Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. We do not pay reparations and we do not withdraw from territories we have claimed." "Then this meeting is over," General Park said, standing up. "We tried to end this war with words. If you prefer to continue with weapons, that is your choice. You cannot be serious. You have fought well, but you are still outnumbered. The Empire has reserves that you cannot imagine." Dr. Min-ji smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Admiral, while we have been talking, humanity has launched our deep space fleet toward Imperial territory. 50 ships equipped with weapons that your Empire has never seen before." She pressed a button, and the room screens showed images that made the Imperial officers lean forward in alarm. Massive human warships were moving through space, their hulls black as night and bristling with unknown technology. "What are those weapons?" Raxnil asked. "Star killers," General Park replied calmly. "We learned how to build them by studying your own technology and improving it. One of our ships can turn a star into a weapon. We can make suns explode or make them burn so hot that they destroy every planet in their systems. The Imperial delegation sat in stunned silence. No species in the galaxy had ever developed weapons that could affect entire star systems. The idea was terrifying beyond imagination. You would not dare use such weapons, Admiral Raxnil said, but his voice was uncertain. We would prefer not to, Dr. Minji replied. But we will do whatever is necessary to protect our freedom. The question is, are you willing to let billions of Imperial citizens die to avoid admitting that humanity cannot be conquered? Admiral Raxnil looked around the table at his officers. He could see the fear in their eyes. They had spent their entire careers believing that the Empire was invincible, but the humans had proven that belief wrong. Now these same humans were threatening to bring the war to Imperial worlds, and they had weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. For 3 hours, the Imperial officers argued among themselves in their own language. Finally, Admiral Raxnil turned back to the human representatives. The Empire will consider your terms, he said slowly. You have 24 hours to decide, General Park replied. After that, our deep space fleet will begin targeting Imperial military bases. The negotiations took another week, but in the end the Empire agreed to humanity's demands. For the first time in over a millennium, the Galactic Empire had been forced to retreat from a conquest. News of the Imperial defeat spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. On world after world, species that had been conquered by the Empire began asking the same questions. If humans could defeat the Empire, why couldn't they? Dr. Kim Minji found herself busier than ever, but now she was receiving messages from across the galaxy instead of intercepting them. Every day, new signals arrived from different species. The messages were all different, but they asked the same basic question. How did you do it? How did you defeat the Empire? Minji would sit in her office, listening to these calls for help, and remember the night she had first decoded the Imperial invasion message. She had been terrified then, certain that humanity was doomed. Now, as she prepared to send instructions for building weapons and organizing resistance movements to dozens of different worlds, she realized that the Empire's greatest mistake had not been underestimating humanity's military strength. Their greatest mistake had been giving humanity time to prove that the Empire could be beaten. The age of unchallenged Imperial dominance was ending, and it had started with a single intercepted message that humanity had refused to ignore.